Hello, I'm General Waffles of the Breakfast Brigade. Let's talk about Rexxar. So Rexxar is the newest hero that's come out, and he is a ranged warrior, which is always strange to have a ranged tanky character. But he comes with his pet Misha, which is the true warrior tank. Alright, just to start off, let's always go over the base stats. His Rexxar's starting health is 750, Misha's starting health is 800, starting magic is 500. His attack damage is 45, his attack speed is 87, which is fairly standard for a warrior. His attack might be a little high, considering Misha does half his damage in auto attacks. His Q is a line swoop, it sends out a bird, it does 61 damage and is slow by 30% for 2 seconds. The W is Misha Charge, and Misha will leap at an enemy or group of enemies and stun everything in the line and do damage, 35 damage at level 1, and stun for 1.5 seconds. The E is a heal over time for Misha that starts out at 192 health back over the course of 5 seconds. Now Rexxar is ranged, but he does have a shorter range than most ranged characters at 4.5, where a standard range for Vala would be 5.5, and a melee character being about 2 for Leoric. Now, so the total HP between Rexxar and Misha is 1,550. That's really good. But a lot of times, people only have to kill Rexxar. You don't have to kill Misha. But Misha does count for a quarter of the experience when you kill her. And it takes about 20 seconds for her to come back, depending on the stage of the game. At level 2, here you can see it takes 14 seconds. Anyway, level 20, HP goes up to 3,600 for Rexxar, 4,030 for Misha. Mana, 690, fairly standard. Q, the Spirit Swoop does 380 with the 30% slow still. The W, the Misha Charge, does 130 with the same 1.5 stun. The E does 1,560 healing over those 5 seconds now. It's really good. And the total health between you and Misha is 7,630, which is really, really good for a warrior. But most times they won't have to do that amount to kill it. The total damage he can get out of his abilities at level 20 is 798, unless you talent specifically have them do more. Now, if you decided to pick up throw-in axes, your attack range will be pushed to 5.6, but in the grand scheme of things, turns out it's not really that beneficial. It doesn't help that much. It's much better to reduce the cooldown on Misha's charge. The attack damage for Rexxar goes up to 216 and retains the same attack speed. Still really high damage. So, I put off making Rexxar videos because Rexxar has a lot of bugs. He still has a lot of bugs. And a lot of his bugs may not even be considered bugs. They may just be considered AI issues. But, for instance, Hunter-Gatherer. If someone else picked up a health globe, you wouldn't get it. This has now been fixed. Thrown axes used to not do anything, this has now been fixed. What hasn't been fixed, though, is camera control issues with Misha. So, if you go into the Garden Terror, and you die in the Garden Terror, Misha will be centered on the camera. And then once you move the view screen away from Rexxar, you will no longer be able to center the camera until you die. This is an issue. If you get grabbed by stitches as Rexxar, you can no longer use the camera until you die. The Dragon Knight, I believe, has the same issue. I cannot remember. I believe that when you die in the Dragon Knight, then you no longer can center the camera. So, controlling Misha is a lot different than controlling, say, the Lost Vikings. Lost Vikings, you can all micro them however you want, and you can put them on any part of the map, and you micro them individually. Misha, however, is microed differently. The passive that Rexxar has is called Come Misha or Attack Misha. And what it does is it puts her into attack mode or leash mode. I don't know what else you'd call it. So basically, you activate it and it calls Misha to you, and when this is activated, when she's in the mode to be around you, she won't attack anything. To me, it would think that she would attack anything that came close to you and to defend you. And that makes sense, but she just runs to you and ignores everything else. This also happens if you separate too far from Misha, she'll leash back to you. Now, this was probably a design choice, considering Misha can do objectives. She can turn in, she can get the Moonwell, and she can capture points by herself, so I think that was a deliberate decision. Next, you can't actually micro Misha yourself. You have to right-click on something and then Misha goes towards it. It's a problem. It's especially a problem because sometimes Misha won't go towards anything else once you clicked on that thing. Once you clicked on that hero. You'll keep attacking them until she leashes or you call her off in some way. But sometimes, when you move, while she's attacking things, you'll order her to go into attack, and then you'll try to back up, and Misha will follow you. She won't continue, like here, specifically. I tried to make sure that Misha was attacking Tychus while I was running away, just to be more of an obstacle in the path, block skill shots, do some damage, make it harder to chase you. But as you can see, Misha just ran forward. Which is another issue. Misha has inconsistent speed. Sometimes she'll move faster than you. Sometimes she'll move slower than you. And sometimes she just takes random paths through the map when you're mounted. When you're mounted, sometimes you can just get separated from Misha. Like in this scenario, she was ahead of me while I was mounted. However, sometimes she'll be considerably behind you. It's very inconsistent, and you don't really want inconsistencies in a game like this. You want to make sure your abilities are doing the same thing. You don't want RNG to happen. I believe that's the basics of what happens with Misha and some of the problems that... I really do think that if you can fix her micro issues, then she could... Rexxar, not Misha, could be overpowered. Just like what happened with Anubarak, where once his beetles worked as intended, suddenly he was the top tier tank and had to be nerfed. It's kind of hilarious. Also, Misha doesn't get target priority from towers like minions do. She works as a hero in all regards to being a hero. So don't try to use her as a minion. But if you but you can use her to soak turret shots. The Rexxar build I'm showing off here is what I believe is the best build, but I also believe that Rexxar can be built in a lot of different ways to react to situations. You can do a jungling build, you can do this tank build that I think is really good, you can do for a big damage build. He has a lot of options that I think they're all fairly good, they're within range. But I do think this one's best overall. Specifically because it brings up the ability Unleash the Boars, which, except for being hilarious, is also very useful because you don't have very many initiation tools as Rexxar, and especially in Quick Match, if you get matched with a team, you're probably not going to get matched with other warriors, or it's supposed to be less likely to get matched with other warriors, so you really need that initiation for your team. However, if your team already has incredible initiation, then you could go with the other one for more damage. Again, he's very viable. Very... not viable. There's many ways that you can build him. Yeah. Unleash the Boars also is really good for dealing with stealth units because it will always hit any units within its giant range, regardless if you can see them or not, and that does mean stealth. So you can charge down stealth people like that. It's really effective. So, not all the game is just about Quick Match. Some of it's about Hero League, and knowing when to pick Rexxar is kind of important. And right now he's in a kind of weird place, because he doesn't fit any existing team comps, really. He's more of a big, tanky thing that combos well. he combos with a lot of characters simply because he has an AoE stun. Just on the grounds of his AoE stun, it makes him really good with characters like Jaina, Kel'Thas, Kerrigan, and Arthas. A really fun combo to pull off is you use Arthas to go in and you get the root, and then you get the stun, and you should usually be able to damage people in the early game, and up till late game, you're still effective heroes. So really just picking him with anyone that has like burst damage is really good on your team. People that are relatively tanky work well with him, like Tychus, because it's kind of hard to protect your team, especially with Misha controlling kind of strangely sometimes. And usually you're in danger too, so you want to make sure there's people that can protect Rexxar himself. Which is why you pick up Feign Death. It's almost essential in a lot of team comps. Now some of the people you gotta watch out for though are heavy burst assassins, especially Zeratul. Zeratul I found has been a nightmare to deal with as Rexxar. It's almost impossible. Because Misha's never where she needs to be, and you need Misha to deal with him, and if you keep Misha by you to protect yourself from Zeratul, then you're not contributing in the team fights, and it's a mess. Zeratul's really good against Rexxar. Leoric, he's also pretty good against Rexxar because most of the time you don't want to move Misha out of a fight. And hitting Misha with his Drain Hope is pretty good. He also can just walk up to you and kind of do whatever he wants, and you can't really outdamage him. You can't outdamage his sustain, and he'll just walk over you. Lost Vikings are kind of annoying, but they're kind of annoying to everybody. Kerrigan, she can come up and do a lot of horrible things to you. Jaina, Kel'Thas have similar problems where they can kind of AoE you down and control you, and control Misha at the same time. You gotta watch out for these people. Nazebo can be horrible to deal with, but only in situations where you can't deal with anything else. Sergeant Hammer, she's pretty annoying too. Just trying to get Misha up to Sergeant Hammer is an issue, and it's kind of hard to engage on her, and then normally, by the time you can get to her position, Misha will be leashing, or you'll be putting Rexxar in danger, and you don't want to put Rexxar in danger. So really you want to build him with a team that has a lot of self-protection, a lot of burst, big meat or big burst. Sonya would work well with Rexxar. Diablo works fairly well with Rexxar simply because of big meat shields. Leoric, Joanna, they can soak up a lot of aggression, and you can just kind of go in and crowd control where you need. Very interesting hero. He works a lot like a specialist in a lot of ways, and you can always just take him into the jungle if you don't feel like your team. If you don't feel like you can contribute to your team very well, you can always take him to the jungle, and he can do most camps by himself fairly quickly, especially if you talent for it. As far as maps go, I wouldn't say that Rexxar even has a preferred map. I would just say that Rexxar is fairly even on most maps, but mostly on the fact that you can just build in a lot of different ways. Like if you're on a map that you split up a lot, you can take Bestial Wrath instead of Unleash the Boars, and you can be a much bigger presence when in 1v1 fights. If you're on a map that had a lot of jungling, like Blackheart's Bay, then you can focus on building Misha as a jungler and having her do a lot of damage to minions. And you can make these decisions. I think one of the worst maps for Rexxar is the Infernal Shrines, but I really hate that map. I think it needs to be changed in a lot of ways. But I just don't think that Rexxar can contribute quite enough to that map. That and, Plant Terror map's annoying because you can't really take the Plant Terror without messing up your camera. And trying to keep track of Rexxar and Misha without being able to center your camera is really obnoxious. So, just kind of take him out into whatever match you want. It's more important to pay attention to the team comps and see if your team's not lacking something. Rexxar can just kind of be a cherry on top. He's definitely a win more character, but not strictly so. If you're winning with Rexxar, it's almost like cheating, because Misha just goes in and can soak up all kinds of damage. And really, this is another reason why he synergizes so good with characters like the Butcher or Kerrigan, is because you get that early game snowball, and Rexxar can carry it so well. He's so safe when he's ahead, especially if you hit 16 and they don't have their level 16. You have Feign death if anything goes wrong. Yeah. The major downside, of course, still is Rexxar doesn't have an escape mechanism, and he really needs to rely on things like Feign death in his team and Misha's positioning to keep him safe. But with a lot of practice, he's a really fun character. I really like the idea of having controllable summons, controllable beasts, what have you, to fight with you or for you. The same reason I really like Nazebo and Zagara. So that's Rexxar in a nutshell, really. Yeah, good game. Yeah, it can be just so hard to get Rexxar off of you once he's on top of you as well. But let's just go over the build and the stats real quick, and that'll be a video. Yeah. I've only gotten him up to level 8. Normally I want to get him a little bit higher, but, yeah, each his own. So, had decent damage, good tanking, good siege, and very few deaths. So, fairly moderate, what you would expect from a hero, really. A warrior hero. Now, Hunter-Gatherer, it's fixed. I think it's phenomenal to have health regen. Flare is a close second. Hungry Bear keeps Misha in fights a lot longer. Aspect of the Beast lowers the cooldown on your AoE stun. Really good. Yeah. The throwing axes just aren't good enough. Unleash the Boars. Great initiation if your team doesn't have one. If you feel like your team has enough, you can pick up the Aspect of the Beast. Yeah, do some more damage. Wildfire Bear, Misha stays in fights for a long time. This makes her a big threat, even when she's not doing much. Yeah. Feign Death, it's a lifesaver. Just take it. You'll need it eventually. Yeah. Primal Intimidation's pretty good too. Kill Command, it's a root. This gives your initiation so much more power. This ability by itself can shut down a lot of characters like Zeratul and Illidan from using their mobility. Well, that's going to be a video. This has been Rexxar. Till next time.